Is save our schools, please. Okay? Save our schools, please. Thousands of children are physically and verbally assaulted every single day while at school. Okay? And it's important to remember. It's important to remember if you're also a school-age person who's watching this right now. Okay? We talked about how to solve conflicts peacefully, okay? How to respond when someone else is having a lack of self-control, someone who's bullying. That's a lack of self-control. But thousands of children go through this every single day. And bullying is commonly accepted and has become a problem that people think is just between the bullier and the bullyee. Right? People think that's their problem, okay, whatever. But it's become society's problem. So what do I mean by that? Think about it. Littleton, Colorado, right? Bullying became the whole school's problem, right? Bullying, and because of the two gentlemen who responded with a lack of self-control, what occurred? Many people were injured and people have died in that incident in Littleton, Colorado, at Columbine High School. Okay? Furthermore, we also have a similar school shooting at Santee, California. This is all a reason why bullying is not just between the two or more parties that are involved. It becomes an issue with everyone, because now that we have a society, because we've accepted this form of, I don't know, quote-unquote entertainment, people who believe that it's entertainment to torture mentally and physically someone else, right? It's become accepted to the point where we have things like school shootings, we have violence against one another, and it doesn't necessarily have to be between the people involved, right? What occurred the other day when that boy was stomped to death? He was stomped to death. Was he involved? Not at all. It's just that someone decided that because someone else made them angry, they wanted to beat someone up, right? Because they may have been bigger or stronger than that other person. Okay, so you see how it affects not just the two parties involved or three parties involved. It affects everyone. And it's important to remember that two wrongs do not make a right. Bullying is a lack of self-control, right? Similarly, retaliation is a lack of self-control. In those situations, it would be, if you're of school age, in those situations it's best to tell an adult or an authority, someone who's in charge, someone you know you can talk to about the situation and get it resolved. Because there is a peaceful solution to all situations. Okay? So the question of the day. Question of the day. How do school shootings and other acts of violence in schools affect society? How do they? Well, when you send your child to school, or maybe when you go to school, you expect to be safe. Schools are meant to be safe havens. They're meant to be places where I can just go and I can get my education on, right? Schools are meant to be safe, but it affects society because there's fear. When there's a lack of self-control, there's a fear, there's a mistrust that's built, right? You can no longer send your child to school or send so-and-so to school or go to school if there's a lack of self-control. Number two, society is robbed of their potential to contribute. What do we go to school for, right? We become the leaders of tomorrow, right? The business owners, the teachers, right? We become the leaders of tomorrow so we can contribute to society. And when school shootings occur, that robs those students or those around them from that ability and potential to contribute. Okay? Families suffer. We all know this, especially when we're looking at Columbine High School and what else? Virginia Tech. I'll take it to a college level, okay? These things occur on a college level as well, not just the high school, and even in Flint when there was an elementary school, right, where the boy came to school and shot another student, right? Families suffer, okay? Not just the family of the bullier or whoever, but the family of those who retaliated or the family of those who suffered, right? Families suffer, okay? And like I said before, fear, hatred, mistrust. You see, it's never solved a problem. Two wrongs don't, that statement rings so true. Two wrongs do not make a right. Because retaliation begets more retaliation, just like war begets more war on a national level, okay? We never solve anything with hatred or retaliation. Never. Think about it for a second. I'll give you a second, quick millisecond. Think, okay? When have you engaged in a screaming match or a fighting match and there was a solution? Maybe temporary satisfaction, right? Maybe temporary satisfaction, but that's the point of it. It's temporary, okay? Who did you save? Who did you benefit? No one, okay? So think about that the next time you feel that retaliation is the best way out, okay? There is a peaceful solution to everything. Okay, so now we're on to the next form of a lack of self-control and how it affects society, right? And that's road violence. Road violence. A lot of us who have our licenses, we drive, we know exactly what it's like either to dish out the road violence or receive it, right? So road rage is another way that a lack of self-control affects our society, okay? But, so road rage, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what it is, but it can be described as the extreme anger of a motorist who is intolerant of the driving habits of another. Stop right there, okay? It's extreme anger of a motorist who is intolerant of the driving habits of another. Notice, nowhere in that statement did it say, another driver made you do it, okay? It comes from being intolerant of the driving habits of another, okay? Next. So, what do I mean by that? What do you mean by that, Mrs. Wallace? I mean, this person was yelling at me and I just had to say something. Actually, no, you didn't, right? There have been cases where people have maybe said the wrong thing, right? There was a case where someone maybe cut someone off. That's the most common form of discourtesy to another person. But maybe someone cut someone off, said a few foul words, and guess what? The person who cut them off came out of the car and shot them. You see what I'm saying? You see how that situation could have been de-escalated, right? Just like how we talked about a couple of weeks ago, talking about how we can actually de-escalate a crisis situation simply by responding in a positive way or not responding at all, right? Road rage, there has been cases where people have died from this practice, okay? And think about it again. What have you accomplished by cussing the next person out? Nothing. You showed that you could cuss very well, but that's about it, right? It has not solved nothing. That's the point of finding the peaceful solution. You stop and consider, what benefit is this going to be to me? What benefit is this going to be to the next person? Okay? Having that compassion and mercy for the next man or woman, right? What benefit? That's the purpose of having self-control. You can actually stop and consider, you know what, I'm not going to say anything to that person because, number one, their windows rolled up. I mean, I've heard people screaming at another person and both windows are rolled up and I'm like, who are you screaming at? They don't even hear you, right? You're not solving the issue. This is the point of these classes, to teach you how to find that peaceful solution in every situation. This peaceful solution can benefit in any situation you can think of on the planet. Okay? Having self-control can improve your life on any situation ever. Okay? Okay. So that's another way, example of a lack of self-control. But what I want to look at now is society on a global scale. Okay? When's the last time we saw the news, the international news, I mean? What's going on? What's going on right now? Nuclear war, right? We're on the verge of nuclear war. What's going on? Peace talks that aren't working right now, right? That they just can't come to an agreement. Violence in the midst of those peace talks, right? Okay? So also remember that conflicts can develop between nations just as they do individuals, okay? So I want us to really keep that in mind. Conflicts develop just as in nations as they do with us, okay? And I hope with that statement you can truly see that it depends on the individual to change, because it can ripple out to the international level, which it's doing right now. When we don't have people who are trying to find this peaceful solution and we put them in power, right? We have the same problems that you may be having with Susie so-and-so who cut you off the other day, right? Okay? So conflicts can develop between nations just as they do individuals. So conflicts on a national level can occur because a single nation could single out a specific ethnic group, just like we saw in Rwanda. One nation could intrude on territory or airspace of another, just like we saw with Syria. One nation may want another's natural resources, just like we see in Iraq. And they may disagree with each other about acquiring and using nuclear weapons, just like how we see with Iran. Notice how I was able to give you a nation for each issue that was going on, okay? So once again, it trickles out. Not practicing the self-control, not finding this peaceful solution, trickles out to a national level, okay? So that is why, because of these disagreements, that is why diplomatic ambassadors are employed. And diplomatic ambassadors have to be very skilled, right? Meaning they have to be the source of reason in the room, because the purpose is to maintain peace, right? So what's the point of me telling you this? What's the point? A lot of times we tend to think that things going on in other nations have nothing to do with this, right? But it's the point that we have to be those diplomatic ambassadors. And when I said earlier how we contribute to society, we're going to university, we're going to school to be those ambassadors, to be those leaders, to be those teachers, to be those people in, could be in the Senate, could be in the governor's office, what have you. That's what we're going to university for, right? To become those leaders. So we need to start changing our behavior now. Think about it. If you become the next Obama, right? Or you become the next Benjamin Netanyahu, right? In those, and I mean in terms of those offices, right? You're gonna want to have that compassion, and you're gonna want to have that ability to practice self-control in communication with your anger, with your emotions, right? You're gonna want to have that positive character, so that way you're not affecting the lives of the country that you run, right? You see what I'm saying? So we have to be those ambassadors on an individual level, okay? Not just, oh, well, so that's going on over there. But let me bring something to closer view for you, right? Number one, we have nations who cannot agree and come to a peaceful solution. So what do? Threatening the other person with nuclear war. What occurs when a nuclear bomb occurs over in Iran, right? Someone's going to retaliate, right? So then that means a nuclear bomb is going to come all the way over where? Probably where you live. You see what I'm saying? It's important that we need to change on the individual level, so that way when we become those leaders, we can become that generation, or the next generations that come can be that generation that is going to have that peace, right? and we're not going to suffer the consequences of immoral behavior, and we're not going to suffer the consequences of